Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon to all students. Today here we are with all marine science students with the forum. With us today we have Espin sir, who have been working as a marine science teacher for a very long time in Maldives, and he is one of the most experienced teachers in the field. He have been working here for more than 15 years at least. Next we have Shehnaz Miss. She is from Ghazi School and she is also one of the most experienced teachers in the field. So I welcome both of them and also hope that students are ready to listen carefully to clear out the doubts. First, there is a question a student have asked to explain how the diesel engine works. Shehnaz Miss, why not you explain it?
Okay. Okay. So here the working principle of a diesel engine. So there are 4 strokes. So here I will just show you the parts of a diesel engine and then how it works. So the things that you should know, in an engine you can see 2 openings. Here one opening is called the inlet valve and the other opening is called the outlet valve. And then this part is called the cylinder. And then you can see the piston, and here there is something called a fuel injector. So these are the main parts that you should know. And then inside this cylinder, this area we call it the combustion chamber. So there are 4 strokes in a diesel engine. So the first stroke is called the induction stroke. So in induction stroke what happens is the inlet valve will open. So in induction stroke the inlet valve opens. So when inlet valve opens, clean air will be drawn inside the cylinder or into the combustion chamber. So clean air drawn in, and then this piston always will be moving up and down. So this stroke, in the induction stroke, the piston will move down. So the movement of piston will be down because the air is forcing the piston to move down, and that time the outlet valve will be closed. So the second stroke is called the compression stroke. So in compression stroke what happens is the inlet valve will be closed. So here inlet valve will be closed. So when inlet valve and outlet valve, both the valves are closed, and this time the piston again will move up, compressing the air. So it is compression stroke. So this time the movement of piston will be up. So the piston moves up and compresses the air inside the cylinder. And then comes the third stroke. So this stroke is called the power stroke. So in power stroke what happens is, here now the air inside the combustion chamber is having high temperature. So, at that time this fuel injector, means this fuel injector is going to inject some diesel inside the combustion chamber. So, at the end of the compression stroke, actually small fuel will be injected to the combustion chamber. So, that time the diesel get ignited and then the power stroke happens. So, in this time due to high pressure, the piston again moves down with high pressure, and then that time you can hear a loud noise. That is the noise that you hear when you start an engine. So, again the piston moves down. So, this time also all the valves will be closed, and then comes the last stroke, that is the fourth stroke. So, that stroke is called the exhaust stroke. So, during exhaust stroke the outlet valve will be open, only the outlet, and this time the piston will again move up. So, when the piston is moving up and the outlet valve is open, the exhaust gases will go out through the outlet valve. So, that is why you see some black colored fumes or black colored gases coming out. So, these are the 4 stroke of a marine diesel engine. So, I hope you all understood what happens in the 4 stroke of a diesel engine. So, anything you want to add?
Another thing regarding induction stroke, why there is another name for induction, that is called intake. Why it is called intake? Because in that stroke only, as Ms. told, no, the air is entering inside. That is why it is called induction stroke, otherwise intake stroke. And another, the third stroke, it is a power stroke. Why it is called power stroke? Because in that stroke actually the power or the energy is produced. That is the reason it is called power stroke. So, if you think that way, it is easy to remember all the strokes.
Thank you.
Another student have asked to explain fish feed manufacturing. Students, it's very important for you to know that now there are slight changes in the syllabus. So, in this syllabus we don't have fish feed manufacturing, so we can skip that question. Another student have asked to explain about atoll formation theory. Now that we have a combination theory, right? Why not just give a summary of it?
Explain that.
Yeah, no problem using it.
Regarding the formation of atoll, there is a theory that is called the Darwin-Dana-Dallis theory. So, this theory says that many years ago, okay, the organic mountain formed, okay, and due to the environmental changes, okay, the mountain started to sink slowly, okay. So, meantime, when the mountain is sinking, okay, meantime the organisms started to grow around the mountain. So, among these organisms, corals also very important organisms, and these organisms around these mountains, they got enough food materials. Therefore, the growth of these coral organisms, or we can say polyps, growth of organisms was very high. Therefore, later when the mountain was sinking slowly, around the mountain the corals started to grow, and finally the mountain completely disappeared at the center. So, the place where I mean at the center the mountain disappeared, it became a lagoon, and around the mountain a ring of coral reefs formed. A chain of or a ring of coral reef is called atoll. And the word atoll, it originated derived from the word atolu.
And also students, it's important that you should remember when the volcanic islands are sinking, it is the process is slow enough for the organisms to grow so that it's maintained at the surface. Therefore, at the end you find the ring of atolls around it. Student also have asked to explain about paper 3 and this is also I think something we need to clear out. Paper 3 does not actually have essay type question. Paper 3 is now of only practical questions. It is of the practicals that you do in grade 9 and 10. So, you have to get used to the practicals and make sure that you know how to do it by yourself so that you can answer the questions related to it. And also it is yes very important that you should refer and learn using your textbook. The previous textbooks you can refer, but the main book should be the new textbook. You can use the previous books as referring resources, but stick to your new textbook for the main exam preparations. Okay. There are a lot of questions. I will try to go by question. Shahim, is a student have asked to explain what ecotourism is.
You can start.
So regarding ecotourism, this week I am going to explain in detail. So that time I will explain all the important
Yes.
information about ecotourism.
Points.
Actually,
Yes.
ecotourism talks about the environment friendly tourism.
Yes.
So that is a new topic that has already included in the new syllabus.
Yes.
So now in our new textbook there is actually the information about the ecotourism as
Ecotourism.
well. So it talks mostly about the benefits of
Ecotourism.
environment friendly tourism. So this is actually something that very recently the world has started
Yeah.
in all the
And
countries.
also this is a very important link that actually joins the tourism industry and the fishing industry together. So if ecotourism is strengthened, it is benefitable for both the industries, the tourism industry as well as the fisheries industry. Some related questions about the fisheries economics. What is economics and what are the resources used in fisheries economics?
The economics says that how to produce wealth and how to use wealth. Because some people, they know how to produce wealth, but they don't know how to use wealth. So both are very important in economics.
Then resources.
And for the wealth, the resources are very important. Without resources,
Yes.
we can't produce wealth.
There are actually natural resources. Humans are
resource.
also a resource in the economics, and
these
also
natural resources divided into
Yes.
two types: renewable and non-renewable resources.
non-renewable. Yes, and also there is the capital. Capital is also a resource, and it's very important. Students should know that capital actually does not mean only money.
Yes.
When we say capital, some students think it is only the money. It's not only the money. Anything that is helping the particular business or particular resource to be expanded and improved is known as a capital. For example,
An engine also.
yeah, engine is a capital, a vehicle is also
Yeah.
a capital. For example, in a factory, all those engines that are used to make the tins, cans, everything, they are all capital. And also the vehicles that is used to transport all the resources to different location, that is also a capital. So the three main resources are the natural resources, human resource and the capital. Furthermore, the human resource can be, the natural resources can be divided into
Two.
renewable,
that is renewable and
non-renewable.
non-renewable. Yeah, so and human resource is one of the most important resource, because these are the people who will make use of the resources and who can modify the resources in a benefitable way, right sir?
most valuable resources.
Yeah, that's why we should be giving importance to educate human resources and also keep them in good health, so that they perform well and the resources are used best. Another question also related, okay. Resources are divided into two groups. Just now we have discussed, name and describe them with examples, okay. Miss, why not give an example of limited resources?
Limited resources means the resources that actually any resource is a
Is
limited
limited
resource,
resource, yes.
because if we are using it wisely only, then we can use it for later.
Long term.
Yeah,
yes.
otherwise it will be limited.
Yeah. For example, we can say fruits and vegetables, they are limited, especially because most of it is imported. We in Maldives locally grow few of them only. Therefore, we depend on other countries for this resource. So, it is very limited. We have to use it wisely.
So, some example we can see, for example, the sea cucumbers in
Yes.
Maldives. Previously, we used to have lots and lots of
Lots of
types of sea cucumbers, but nowadays it is actually not allowed us to take sea cucumber by using scuba diving gears, because it's very much limited now.
Yes.
Very few we can see.
Yeah.
So, any resource can be a limited resource,
yeah, limited
if
resource.
we are not using it wisely.
When we are talking about Maldivian marine environment, we can say that fish and seafoods are actually unlimited. But as Shehem is told, we cannot use it just like that without thinking, because overusing can lead to for
Depletion.
us, yeah, depletion, and then we will be in trouble. Very good example she have given is the sea cucumbers. Before we had actually so many varieties, and also they were expensive type of the sea cucumbers. Now we have actually very cheap
The ones
species.
that people usually don't use,
don't
not
use
the edible ones.
Yeah. So now the government have banned of taking the one that are very less, and then we need to regrow them. So that is why even unlimited resources, even though fishes are available in Maldives, if we don't use it wisely, it can become a limited resource, and then we may be in danger. One very good example can be the tuna fishing industry. You remember, it is a very important fishing industry in Maldives. That is why, and it is long lasting also, because Maldives is following the pole and line fishery, which is a friendly type of fishing, and that will help us to maintain the tuna stock. So like that, everything we have to use wisely in order to make it available whenever we want it.
And regarding the resources, in our syllabus, there are two terms. The unlimited resource is called surplus resource,
Yes.
and a limited resource is called scarcity.
Those terminologies are also very important, students. So when you are learning through the book, reading the book, make sure you underline the important terminologies and then you revise them. Refer to them often when you are answering your questions.
And there's one more thing, when you are studying for the exam, usually you can find at the beginning of each chapter there is the learning outcomes are there
Yes.
given. So in the learning outcomes, if it's the words are in italic form, means those terms will come in the exam for you to define. So always all the terms that are in italic form means the term, the definition you have to learn for the
Yes.
exam.
And
It is-
regarding Miss told, no, that is very important, because GC O-level syllabus, you can see actually these outcomes or objectives, they are converting into questions.
Questions very often.
So like Miss told, if you know all the outcomes of each lesson, then we know how to answer all the questions.
Yeah, that is a very good point students need to keep in mind. Then we have the question about the needs and wants. Define needs and wants with examples.
Yeah, the needs means the very essential things. Without these essential things, we cannot live. Say, for example, food, shelter, clothes.
Clothing.
Those things are needs. But wants means desirable things. Say, for example, car, computer, okay, calculator. Without these things also we can live.
We can manage our life,
yes,
right?
yes. So these things are called wants.
Yeah, water is also a need because we cannot
Surely.
survive without water, right? So water, food, clothing and shelter, these are the main things that a human needs to survive in the world. Food, water, clothing and shelter. Without them we cannot survive. We may survive, but we'll be in very worse condition with lot of problems. But on the other hand, like we demand for beautiful clothes, we demand for latest models of phones, mobile phones, computer services, air conditions, all these things are our wants that we desire for a comfortable life. We want it, everybody want it, but not necessary. We can survive without that also. There is actually another question student have asked to explain how a mean speed can be found in a lagoon, how the water current speed can be found in a lagoon. And not only the water current speed, but how a mean speed can be generated, a student is asking.
So the speed means there is a formula, that is
Yes.
a distance divided by
So
time.
you can, right.
This is a formula to find out the speed of water current. So if you know the two factors, that is distance and time, it is easy to find out the speed. And mean means if you are finding the speed in different spots of different directions of the what you call the island, then we can add these different speed from different spots, then divide by the number of the spots. Say for example, if we are measuring the speed from 3 spots, okay, then we can calculate by adding these three speed from 3 spots divided by 3. Then it is easy to find out mean speed of the island. Okay.
And also students should remember, should know why we are taking 3 different values, right? 3 different readings from 3 different places. The importance of it is so that the answer, the calculation to be more regular.
More accurate.
More accurate, yes, it can be more accurate. Another question student have asked is, define opportunity cost with 2 examples.
So opportunity cost means the cost of not choosing the other one. Say for example, in our life, if we want to get something, we have to lose something else. Say for example, the island, if we are using that island for constructing a resort, okay, the same island we can use for constructing a fish processing plant. So the fish processing plant, the construction of fish processing plant is the opportunity cost of what? That construction of, using the island for construction of resort. So once again, the opportunity cost means the cost of not choosing the other one, something we are sacrificing
In order to get another, right? For example, let's say there are 2 jobs we can choose between. One is becoming a reporter, the other one is becoming a teacher.
Yeah.
But there might be a student who is interested in both of them. But anyhow, she or he cannot use both of them, right? She has to select between them. She has to leave one and choose the other one. So actually, when we get an opportunity, it's very important that we think about it wisely, right?
Exactly.
Think about the advantages or what might happen in long run, and then select one of it, right? Another student is asking to explain drift long line in a summary, how drift long line operates and how it works.
So long line means a long line with many hooks.
Yeah.
Okay. Drift long line means the long lines which is floating in the water.
Yes.
Okay. There are different types of long lines. Drift surface water long lines or drift long lines, or mid water drift mid water long line, or bottom water long line. So this drift water long lines means the long line which is floating at the surface of the sea.
Yeah, and then it will be left for a certain time.
Yeah.
So that the target organisms are caught in them, and then later they are collected. And students, you need to remember that these long lines are maintained at different depths using the weights and the floats. Yes.
Floats.
So if we talk about surface long lines, drifting long lines means it will have more floats on it. Okay.
And
Usually
singers.
the two types refers to the set long line and then the drift long line. Set long line means the long line will be set in
Particular
place. So using the weights or anchor, that line will be actually anchored in
Yes,
particular area. But drift means it will not be anchored. Anchors are not
Yes.
used, so they will be just drifting in the water.
So from this question, we'll have to take a small break, and we'll be coming back with more questions. Stay with us. Welcome back to all students. I am Senior Miss working in Hiriya School. We have two other teachers with us, and we'll carry on with the lesson with the doubts and questions. Describe the relationship between scarcity resource and opportunity cost, a student is asking.
So when the scarcity is increased, the opportunity cost is also increased. That is the
Increasing.
relation between the scarcity and the opportunity cost.
Because there is this limit of the resources
yes.
we have, we cannot choose everything we want. That is actually losing one in order to get the
get
other.
other one.
That is the actually opportunity. And when the scarcity is there, opportunity cost always will be there. So they are both actually very much related. Because of one, the other is always there. Compare producers with consumers, including examples. Producers and consumers.
Producers are the people who produces goods and services. If a person is producing a good or a service, that person can be a producer. For example, a person who is catching the fish can be a producer.
Yeah, fisherman is a producer. Teacher is also producer.
Yeah.
We are also
Yes.
Giving a service.
We are
Yes.
service.
For example, a factory is also a producer, the owner,
owner.
because they are bringing in one product, but then they are giving to the market 3 or 4, 5 different types of products. So that is also, they are also producers.
And then consumers are the people who consume or buys the products.
Buy the products,
Yeah.
yes.
Buys from the producers or the services from the producers. So they
Yeah.
can be a consumer. For
Consumers.
example, the person who goes and buys something from a shop, or maybe a person who goes to cut his hair and then getting that service.
Yes.
So that can also be a consumer.
Consumer.
Getting a service is also consuming.
Consumer. Becoming a consumer. Actually, most of us are consumers. There are less people as producers. So we depend a lot on the producers they have. So I mean, for example, if we go to a beauty parlor for a beauty treatment, that is also we are becoming a consumer.
But there's one more thing I want to highlight. The thing is, in marine science, we study about two different types of
yes.
consumer and producer. Okay, so when you are answering the question, it's very important to check the topic. For
Yes.
example, we have studied about ecology. When we study in ecology, we have studied that producers are the organisms that make their own food using
Yes.
carbon dioxide, water and sunlight. So they are usually the plants who photosynthesis.
Yes.
So they are also called producers. And then the organisms that feed from these producers are called
Consumers.
consumers. So,
we
for
should not, yes.
example, there are herbivorous fishes. So, they can also be a consumer. There are some turtles who feed on the plant material. So, they are
They are
also called consumers.
consumers. And also students, you should remember that consumers in the ecosystem also can be said as autotroph, producers, sorry. Producers can be named as autotrophs also. You may be asked to give another name for autotrophs. They are called autotrophs because they prepare their own food using water, sunlight and nutrients.
Yeah.
So those things you should not get confused between them.
So-
If it is asked under economics, then you have to say producers are people who produce goods or who give service to others. Okay? But if it is in related to ecosystem and relationships, yes, you have to remember that plants are the producers and all the others are consumers in the
So
system.
here from the context of the questions, the students have to understand.
Answer,
Yeah.
yes,
and
understand it.
differentiates.
Yes.
This produced from ecology, this produced from
Yes.
Yeah.
economics.
Producers of ecology and producers of the business.
So, if you,
okay?
yeah, it is very important. Actually, in O-level exam also, they ask questions like this. For example, what is meant by consumer or producer in ecology or in economics? Like that, they will be asking questions. So, before you answer a question, always read the question carefully and then start to answer. Otherwise, you may get confused and you will lose the marks.
Yes. Another question, mention the meaning of the term regulators in economy with examples. Regulators.
So regulators are the people, say for example, politicians, government employees, okay, they will prevent or avoid the conflict between the producer and consumers. So we all know the business is a competition. Okay, so in the competitions, consumer might fight with the producer, producer might fight with the consumer. So to avoid that fighting or conflict between the producer and consumer, the regulators are very important. So regulators example, government employees or politicians.
The Majlis members, they
Yes,
also,
yes, yes.
because
They also come under
Yeah.
regulators. Let me give a very famous example for this relevant days. Very recently, the government have controlled the prices of certain food products, right? The onions, the eggs and potatoes,
yeah.
and also the yellow dal we called
Yes, yes.
mugu. In local language we say mugu. Those prices are now controlled by the government. So government is one of the most powerful regulator of these things. Why is it controlled? It is controlled because the consumers are in trouble when the prices rise too much high. So that is one very good example of the regulators. What are the ways in which producers can exploit the consumers? A related question in the same topic.
Producers can
Exploit the consumers.
So producers can exploit the consumers according to the demand of the
Yes.
product. Okay, they will increase the price. Say for
Price.
example, now you have said a very good example. Now the demand of vegetable, fruits very high. Okay,
It went high.
yeah. So that way, if the producer increase the price of the product or the service, that means they can exploit the consumers.
Yes. So in order that the consumers are not exploited like that, the government controls and regulate the prices. When there is always a need, these things are done like that. How do regulators regulate or control the producers and consumers to avoid exploitation?
Just now we
Yeah, it is
talked
same
about
thing
the
actually,
same.
right? How do the regulator regulates in order to control the producers and the consumers to avoid exploitation?
That means the regulators can tell the producer, you have to fix the price.
Yes.
Okay, with this price only you have to sell the products. So that way they can regulate the producers. And the consumers, the regulators can control or regulate the consumers also. So for example, the consumers, they might import the cheap product from other country. Okay, maybe the same product is produced in the own country. Okay, but say for example tin tuna. So tin tuna, if it is cheaper, they might import the tin tuna from other country. So that way the consumer can exploit the producer. So the country where the product is produced are domestic products. So those products cannot be sold in high price.
So there are some terms actually we have studied in marine science about this, that is the tariff is there. The tariff means the money that government is taking from the things that we import. For example, if we are importing something from outside, for example canned tuna, then the government will take some money from them. So that is the tariff. So if they are taking more money, means the things that we import, the price of those things will get higher. But if the government cuts the tariff, means not taking anything from the people who import, then the price of those items will be low. So usually what the government does is, they actually, for example, if they want people to produce banana locally in the Maldives, then they will increase the tariff for banana. It means if we are importing banana to Maldives, then those bananas they have to sell for higher prices. So the local things we can easily sell. So that way the government or the regulators can actually control the price of anything.
Yeah, for example, let's say nowadays that we have lot of demand for the sanitizers and the masks. Certain shops and chemists are selling them like 3 masks for 1 person or 1 sanitizer bottle for 1 person. That is also a way they regulate, so that it is equally distributed among all the society and everybody get the chance and benefit of those. Okay, so those things are very important. Another student is asking to differentiate between the upwelling and the El Nino phenomenon. Differentiate between the upwelling and El Nino phenomenon.
So upwelling means it is by the action of wind and water currents, okay, from deep water. I mean from the depth of the sea, the deep water is coming to the surface. So okay, when the water is coming to the surface, it is bringing the nutrients also. So at the surface of the sea, more quantity of nutrients get accumulated, and that nutrients can be eaten by planktons, okay, and the number of planktons will be more, and these planktons will be attracted by small fishes. So okay, so that way that place will become a fishing ground.
Productive fishing ground.
Yeah, productive
right?
fishing ground.
And also students, you should remember that when we are talking about upwellings, the bottom water is forced due to different things to the surface. The bottom water is actually cold also. So the cold water have the ability to dissolve more oxygen in them, right? So therefore actually because of these qualities of this water coming from the bottom, it becomes a very productive area for the fishes. So fishermen need not actually travel far distances. If they know an area of an upwelling, they can straightly travel to that place and do the fishing. It is making their life easier also. What about the El Nino phenomenon?
El Nino phenomenon is due to the movement of westerly trade wind.
Yes.
So therefore, at the surface of the sea, the temperature of the water will be increased. So when the temperature of the water is increased, the number of planktons decreased. Therefore, fish catch will be decreased.
Yeah, yeah. Students, actually, you can remember it like this. It is kind of opposite of one.
Yeah.
One is benefitable, the other one is a little harmful. Okay.
Yeah, one is increasing the catch, other one is
decrease in the catch. And also you can relate with the temperature.
Yes.
Actually, temperature during El Nino phenomenon, the temperature is increased, and then it stays for a while. The temperature is increased for a while. Therefore, the amount of actually some planktons, they will be migrating vertically because the high temperatures can burn them, and also high temperatures reduces the amount of dissolved oxygen in them. So therefore that area becomes very less productive, So, in that way you can remember one is increase in the fish catch, the other is decrease in the fish catch. Okay. Another student have asked to define opportunity cost with 2 examples.
That I told already.
Yeah,
That is
opportunity cost.
using the island for constructing the resort instead of constructing the fish processing plant.
Yeah.
That is also opportunity cost.
So, it is an opportunity. There are 2 things you can do, not at one time, same time. Okay. You can either build a resort or a factory. You cannot build both of it. So, wisely you have to select between them. Another student have asked to explain why it is very less amount of plants are found in the areas below 200 meters.
Actually, plants are the producers. So, the plants producers means they photosynthesis.
Yeah.
So, for the process of photosynthesis, they need sunlight, and then they need carbon dioxide, chlorophyll. So, the sunlight actually reaches to the top 100 meters usually. So, the top 100 meters which means below that if the plants are there means also they cannot photosynthesize.
Yes.
So, usually the photosynthetic organism always stays at the place where they get enough sunlight.
Yes. And students should actually relate it with the producing of own food, right? Because remember, light, the sunlight is one of the most important source for the producers. Sunlight actually, when the marine environment is absorbing the sunlight, it is top 80 meters, actually top 10 meters that absorbs the 80% of the
80%
light.
of the
Okay,
light.
top 10 meters absorbs the 80% of the light, but still up to 200 meters light enough for photosynthesis is available. Okay. So, below that the plants cannot survive because plants are surviving on depending on their own food, and when they cannot get light enough for photosynthesis, they cannot survive in that depth. Below 200 meters actually light might be visually detected, that means we might be able to see the light, but still that light below 200 meters is not enough for photosynthesis. That is why plants and the phytoplanktons cannot survive below 200 meters.
And also related to that answer, sometimes they will ask why more number of fishes at the surface of the sea. That is not the same answer, because of more sunlight, more nutrients,
Yes.
okay, more quantity of dissolved oxygen, therefore more number of fishes living
Yes.
at the surface.
And also when small fishes are more, that particular area, the bigger ones will be following. So, you can relate all these things in the ecosystem. You can keep in mind that and then relate, because directly or indirectly all the organisms are depending on the light actually. Light meaning the plants, the producers depend on light. Therefore, they are all related to one another. Another related question is here, that is asking why it is that the areas where the plants are inhabiting find more oxygen. Why? There are more oxygen around the plants.
Plants photosynthesize, as previously I told. So, in the process of photosynthesis, they will be taking in carbon dioxide for the process of photosynthesis. So, at the same time when they are photosynthesizing, they will be giving off oxygen as a byproduct. So, this oxygen will be released. So, during that process, the daytime usually when they get the light, so the whole day they will be taking in carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen. So, oxygen concentration will be higher around plants compared to all the other areas. So, there are actually places where you find more oxygen. So, one place is actually around marine plants. If you are thinking of marine environment. So around marine plants, because marine plants will be photosynthesizing and they will be releasing oxygen. And another place where you find more oxygen is in cold water. Previously you also have
Yes.
mentioned about it. So cold water has more ability to dissolve
Yes.
oxygen compared to warmer water. So in cold water there are more oxygen, and the third place where you find more oxygen is at the surface of the sea. The reason is in the atmosphere, you all know that atmosphere contains air. So this air has 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen and 0.03% carbon dioxide, and then 1% other gases. So this 21% oxygen which is in the atmosphere will be touching the surface of the sea. So when they touch the surface of the sea, and then due to the wave action, due to the current, due to wind, all these things, the water will be always moving. So at that time oxygen will be slowly diffusing into the water. So at the surface always you find more oxygen compared to other areas.
Yes.
So these are the three areas you get more oxygen. So one area is, as the question says, around marine plants.
Spencer, another very interesting question a student have asked. Why is it that when we take a marine environment, a fish from marine environment, very often when the kids they go into the lagoon for just for enjoyment, they see smaller fishes, and with love they take it out from the lagoon, and then with a bottle they are taking with salt water, and then they are putting in their tank is having fresh water. The student is asking, why is it that the salt water is dying when it is put
that
into?
is because of the difference in the salinity, because the seawater salinity is more, the freshwater salinity is less, and the fish fails to control the quantity of the salinity and the what you call the water.
Yeah.
That is called osmoregulation in a way. That is a very important term, osmoregulation. Osmoregulation means regulation of water and salt. So when we are transferring the fish from the seawater to fresh water, the fish fails to control the level of salt and the water level in the body. Therefore, fish might
Unable
die.
to control that, and then decreasing of salt concentration in the body cells, the fish dies, right? So I mean, mainly another student have asked a related question, asking that how does the fishes regulate salt concentration in the body?
That is by the activities of gills, kidney.
Yes.
So these are the skin. These are the important parts of the body. They
Yes,
are
that regulates
they are helping to regulate the water and
salt concentration. So actually it is like it is known as the osmoregulation,
Osmoregulation.
the process by which the marine organisms regulate the salt concentration in their body.
Salt
so
and water
yes, salt and water concentration of their body is known as osmoregulation. For example, when we are talking about a fish in the seawater, how does it regulates?
So
What
for
happens like?
example, different organism, actually freshwater organism or saltwater organism, these different organisms regulate the water and salinity in their body in different ways.
Yeah.
Actually. So for example, usually when the fishes are in water, what they do is they take in some water inside their body, and then if the water they take in is fresh water, means the organisms that live in fresh water, so they are taking always fresh water inside their body. So inside their body actually the concentration of salt will be higher compared to the outside. So if we put those fishes in salt water, what happens is actually the concentration of salt outside the body will be higher compared to inside, so they cannot regulate. So actually each organisms keep certain amount of salt, certain amounts of water in their body to function their body properly. So if the concentration is not enough, if it goes higher or lower, then they cannot survive. That's why if you take a freshwater saltwater fish and just keep it in fresh water, then they cannot survive, because they need more salt, and their body is actually adapted in that particular way.
Yeah.
And so there are some organs, as Spencer said, their kidneys, they have chloride cells, so they are gills. So there are certain ways that they regulate or they control the amount of salt and water that enters or that leaves their body. So that is actually
Yeah,
osmoregulation.
when we talk about a fish in the salt water, actually in the salt environment, the water is less, and in their body the water is more. Therefore, actually water is diffusing out, right, continuously. So when they lose water in this diffusion process, to replace it they are drinking lot of sea water. But with the sea water, excess salt is also coming into their body. So to get rid of that excess salt, actually there is a chloride cell in their gills that regulates. Okay, so that removes during the process of water going in and water going out through. Water comes from the mouth and then circulates in the gills and then goes out through the operculum. So in this process, actually the chloride cells are sending out the excess salt out with the water. So like that it is maintained. So this process, the fishes are used to this process, and all of a sudden when they are put into fresh water, what happens is they start gaining water into their body, because they have high salt concentration in their body, and then water from the environment is diffusing into their body, and then they may burst, their cells will burst and they may die, right?
And another thing in that lesson, a very interesting thing, the students get a chance to learn what is osmosis, what is diffusion.
Diffusion, yes, can come talk about it also very, very well, right? Another student is asking why it is found that when the fishes are moving in a certain area, why is it found that certain species dies very easily and the other species can survive for a longer time? A student is asking, in same environment.
That is because of the adaptations. Some fishes, they can adapt to that particular environment, maybe because of the temperature, I told no,
Yeah.
the water movements like that. So they can, if the fish is adapted to that, they can survive. Otherwise, other fishes very difficult to survive.
For example, as sir said, that is actually due to some adaptation. For example, there are reef fishes. So if you take a reef fish and if you leave it in the open sea, in the oceans, then what happens is actually they do not have that much ability to swim, continuously swimming. So they may die because although it is salt water, but still these reef fishes, they need to rest, they need place to hide, they need certain foods which they get from the environment where they are living. But if you leave it in the open water, then they may not get a place to rest, they may not find their food, or the temperature may be different, or they may have to continuously swim, so they may not be able to survive. The same thing happens if you take a
Open
oceanic fish, for example a tuna. You can't keep a tuna in a tank, but you can easily keep the reef fishes in the tank. The reason is tuna never stop swimming.
Yes.
So they are continuous swimmers. So if you keep the tuna in the tank, they will die because of suffocation most of the time, because they need lot of oxygen and they need to swim continuously. They need a huge area to swim. So different organisms are adapted to live in different ways. For example, there are some organisms who live at the bottom of the sea.
Yes.
If you take them and try to keep them in the surface, at the surface, you cannot do that, because those organisms, they need to lie on the seabed, and then their activities are actually very much reduced.
Yeah.
So they cannot come to the surface and live. That's why you find certain organisms in certain areas only. Other areas you can't find those organisms. For example, you can't find sea cucumbers swimming in the open sea. They are always at the bottom. So different organisms are adapted
So
like that.
yeah, as a summary, it is depending on actually the ability of the organism to adjust and certain other abilities that they naturally have. Dear students, it's actually time up for our today's forum. Still some questions are there. We will discuss about it in the next forum, and also we encourage the students to go through the teleclass lessons regularly to your subjects, and grade 10 students, marine science students can go through the teleclasses of grade 9, which will be a good revision for you all. So please be in touch with the teleclasses and send more questions so that we will have more questions to discuss. I thank Espinsa and Jehnaz Miss for coming and spending time with us today. That will be all. Wish you a very safe and blessed days ahead. Thank you.